Why do you feel in our gymnastics community, whether it's with COVID now, and I think this was present much more before COVID, but it amplified with COVID. Why do you think we have certain mental health concerns in our sport, whether it's gymnasts who have anxiety, coaches who have a lot of depression with maybe not being happy with their job or with their overall, status of their gym and things of that nature? What do you think contributes to some of those bigger issues?
Well, I think there's a lot of stress, for one thing, in high performance sport, and in any performance sport, there's stress on both sides, from the coaching side and from the gymnast side. The gymnast is having to deal with all these competitional fears, which are natural, and the coach is dealing with all the fears of making sure everything's in place, and have they done enough, and all the 100 things that go behind the scenes that the gymnast won't necessarily see. And so there's abundances of stress, and with COVID now interrupting everybody's plans, nobody could have really predicted the Olympic Games wouldn't have happened, as the biggest comp of the year, and then we've got everything else that comes along with it, and so it can be very stressful for the coach's point of view, because he has his plan or she has her plan, and that's what coaches will work on, is their plan, and they love their plan, and that's what keeps them grounded and settled, and it's data that gives you feedback instantly. So it's stressful then when the whole program changes and everything's out the window, and there is no contingency either, because it's too chaotic. It's just too crazy to plan for. So all you could do at the time, obviously, was those that were lucky enough that they could have a mobile apparatus were able to train along, but you can't just bring a floor into your back garden. It's a wee bit different. So yeah, I could see this. I could see coaches stressing out about this. I could see there was no routine. There was no everyday things that you do in life happening. So everything was just madness. And what it was a pot for mental health issues and all the negative emotions associated with negative mental health. And it was very obvious to me, 6-7 weeks into it, that pretty much everyone I spoke to was speaking about some level of negative emotions that are associated with negative mental health, or if not, just having full-blown conversations like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I've had too many conversations like that now, and it's too obvious that there's a pattern here, that this type of conversation needs opened up and amplified and just thrown across the world as much as possible, because it will help drop the stigma. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. It will be done, but we need to open it up a lot more. And it's about what you can control and what you can't control. So often, there may be judges there, and people are literally judging you, but it's out of your control. It's a subjective sport, for one. So no matter what you say or do, it's always down to the matter of opinion of the judge, within the rules of the code of points. But it's the scores out of your reach. It's not something you can control. So the only thing you can control is your gymnastics, and that's literally one of the most important messages specifically for sport, is you don't do it for any other reason than yourself and for what you want, for your own goals, under your own thoughts, because that's what you can control. You can control how you execute the routine, not the outcome. So never think about the outcome, just think about what you can do as the gymnast, and that's your gymnastics. So that's a big one that kind of just stands out in that kind of shift of just being able to rationalize things a little bit more as well. One thing that really helped with me was driving. So I do a lot of commute to and from my job, and I'm doing about 400 to 500 miles a week. So I spend a lot of time on the road, and it can sometimes you want to get home a wee bit faster, or sometimes, the weather's not good, or sometimes people are driving. And basically what I started to realize was a lot of people's driving started to irritate me, and how they were driving was irritating me. And I started thinking that's like an ego thing. It's like you're saying, well, my driving style should trump theirs. So it's like, well, actually that doesn't make any sense. So I just got rid of any negative feelings with driving, and that worked really well for me, because you could call it as soon as it started to happen. So you could see a guy was driving really close up behind you, and he's maybe flashing his lights, and it's like, well, I'm doing the speed limit. Like, okay. And then before, it would have made you really angry. You would have been like, all right, okay, we want to go then. And it's like, you get all hyped up, and then it's like, that's so stupid. Okay, well, maybe he's in a rush. Maybe his wife's gone into labor. Maybe he's got an emergency, and pull over and let that guy go, and just wish him all the best. And that's that. So that's one thing that really did. It was interesting because that gave context to exactly how you could see it. You could feel that emotion coming from it, relabel it, and then you changed your outcome. And so then I started to apply that to loads of different things. So I just started thinking, I started being aware of when I was maybe not being as positive as I should have been, and maybe just a little bit too moany in sport. Doing that type of like CBT and just relabeling will increase your performance. It's class. You can rationalize competition fears. So I believe there is a distinction between developing mindfulness and working on emotional intelligence and self-awareness through things like CBT. It has a direct correlation to a happier and healthier life, and one that can increase performance and fight off all those negative emotions associated with negative mental health. And that's mad. It means you just have this, you have a tighter grip on the steering wheel of your own mind, and it's like, wow, this changes everything. And I just think that the more people that at least try this way of thinking, the better. Because if you think about it, how much time are you dedicating to Netflix each day? Or how much time are you dedicating to social media? Even if you dedicate 20 minutes of a day, which I'm sure those other two I just mentioned, you're way over 20 minutes on, then if you dedicate just 20 minutes a day to just trying this type of thinking, then I genuinely believe that it will have profound effects. If you just spend a little time focusing and developing it, it can transform everything. I swear to God, it is an amazing thing.
I've talked about how I've had some issues with depression and mental health, and I just want to clearly articulate why I got in and what helped me get out of there and what I still work on. So like when I was younger as a gymnast, I had a lot of insecurity about my gymnastics level. I was not the most talented. I was not the most, naturally gifted athlete. I had a great coach. I worked hard, but I was very insecure about my gymnastics, right? I was also very insecure about my body and the way that I looked. I was not super lean. I wasn't super cut, whatever it is. But the problem is that like when you combine that with maybe some personal life struggles that I had, the real problem is that I was addicted to everybody else's opinion. I was valuing everybody else's opinion of me more than my opinion of myself. And that caused a vulnerability where I needed compliments. I needed people to tell me that I was good enough. And I think a lot of gymnasts and or coaches will probably resonate with that, where they get caught up in the thoughts of other people and what they want more so than what really matters to them, what their values are and what they care about deeply in their life to make themselves happy. And as you said, with social media, one of the best cures for that is slightly less time on social media, looking at everybody else's life, or kind of getting caught up in the filter life and the highlight reel, like making you seem like, wow, life is so much better than mine. But like, that was those, when I look back on it now, a lot of my ego problems, a lot of my my dips into depression, because it becomes an unquenchable thirst. There's never enough likes. There's never enough people telling you you're great. There's never enough high scores at a meet. Like if the kids did well, I felt that I was, doing well as a coach. And like, a lot of my social anxiety came from that. Was like, what are they talking about? Are they talking about me? What are the other teams saying about me? Like, what are my friends saying about me? Like, I built a prison around myself because I became so dependent on everybody else's opinions.
It's one reason actually I came off social media for Instagram. I came off on March, and I just find that for me, Instagram was just like what you said, constantly comparing, and then it kind of I thought that led to more negative emotions. So I just got rid of it altogether, because it's like, well, I just want to live my own life. I want to just do my own thing. I don't want to be influenced by something random, and that's what I kind of just felt that Instagram was becoming for me. It didn't hold an actual learning purpose for me. Yeah. Now, it's great because, you can see gymnastics comps and you can see reels and stuff like that, but actually, I could do that on YouTube if I wanted to, or I could see, a competition. So I just got rid of it. I've kept Twitter for now because it's quite good just for quick news, and it's quite good for investment information or stuff like that because it's quite instant. But I think that there is a lot of negativity in social media platforms at the moment, and it's a shame because it could have been the exact opposite, but I don't know why, but there just seems to be too much negativity. So I would encourage to spend less and less time on it, and a little bit more time just thinking about yourself and thinking about those types of things that we were thinking about before. And actually what you might find is you don't think certain ways about certain things. It's actually because you'll come off from being reminded certain ways, and you follow certain people, and so that creates an algorithm, and then these recommendations are here, and then all of a sudden you're like, that's what your worldview is. It's what you're seeing that time after time. So when you step away from that, you might actually just think a little bit more, a little bit more independently, a little bit more like yourself again. And I think that's a really powerful thing.
Because a lot of times when people come to a point of fear, or they want to do something, they want to try a new skill, they want to do whatever it is, they want to try a new hobby, they want to do something new, and the fear takes over, like that anxiety spike comes, they feel their palms sweat. And like, that's really grounding for me. It's back to kind of like that idea of like establishing your values and then making sure your intentions are good. In that moment, you could be like, all right, I'm terrified right now, but my values, this is meaningful to me. Like, me in the future knows this is really important. So I'm going to act even though I'm really nervous. And then usually it's terrifying in the moment, but then you get past that and you're like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And you have that little dose of fear, then you get confidence to do something a little bit more intense, a little bit more intense. It's just like gymnastics, right? It's just like gymnastics. You start with that one little, remember when your first back handspring, when you were like 7, you were like, this is terrifying. I'm going to die.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the need to avoid failure rather than the need to achieve success. And that's the powerful thing about those that can be able to rationalize as gymnasts or as athletes. They're the ones that gain a little faster and learn a little quicker, and I would argue that they're probably a little bit more self-aware, and they're able to have that need to achieve success rather than be completely controlled by that need to avoid failure. The message here is just to talk more, to open up this dialogue of just being to speaking about mental health issues. Everyone has them. It doesn't need to be, and mental health issues isn't just like being depressed. It's not that's one end of the scale, but it can just be feeling too many negative emotions, or being anxious about certain things, and having your heart racing about things that, social phobia is a big thing. I know a lot of people that just have a phobia of coming into a room and just speaking or just being present in a room. And it's like, well, okay, let's talk about it. There's no, you don't need to feel that way. Come on. And you kind of can slow, obviously there's techniques and things to do for that, but that's the sad thing, if people are scared just to talk from that, so that's really what the message is here, is to speak more, to drop all the stigmas, to allow yourself to be vulnerable. It's totally fine. It's not, there isn't one person listening to this talk now that won't have experienced some negative emotions and mental health, the negative emotions associated with negative mental health.